Imagine 80 cents of every dollar you earn being taken by the government to buy bullets and bombs. It sounds like a dystopian movie, but for Japan in the 1940s, it was a brutal reality. During World War II, Japan poured over 80% of its national budget into the military. The result? Total economic collapse and a nation in ashes. But the real story isn't just the destruction. It's how Japan turned that 80% failure into the greatest economic miracle in history. Today, we look at why Article 9 isn't just a law, but the smartest business decision Japan ever made. Why 80%? Because once a nation's DNA becomes centered on military pride and peer pressure, what we call doyoatsu in Japan, it cannot stop. The government sacrificed education, healthcare, and your family's dinner table for the sake of national strength. But strong on a map meant weak in the home. This period taught us a lesson we should never forget. You cannot eat missiles. You cannot build a future on destruction. When the war ended, Japan was bankrupt, not just financially, but spiritually. In 1946, Prime Minister Kajiro Shidehara made a gamble that shocked the world. He proposed the total renunciation of war. As MacArthur later recalled, Shidehara knew the world didn't trust Japan. MacArthur wrote, "The world may call Japan a foolish nation for having no army. But Japan must become the pioneer of a new civilization." They chose to be fools to gain something more valuable, global trust. By becoming a nation that cannot attack, Japan transformed from a global threat into a global partner. This trust was the foundation for everything that followed. This is the peace dividend. Instead of spending 80% on war, Japan spent that energy on commerce. We built cars, cameras, and semiconductors. We invested in our children's education and a national healthcare system. Article 9 acted as a safety brake against our own worst tendencies, the power harassment and rigid hierarchy that once fueled the military. By staying out of the arms race, Japan focused on winning the global market. Peace wasn't just a moral choice. It was a high-level strategic pivot that made us the world's second-largest economy. Today, some politicians talk about taking Japan back or beautifying our military past. They speak of pride while ignoring the 80% tax madness. But let's be flat and honest. True strength isn't found in a weapon. It's found in a society where you can work, create, and live with joy, gratitude, and laughter. Our ancestors were the pioneers of peace. Let's not trade that unique global asset for an outdated dream of military might. The lesson Japan learned was clear. Peace is the best business model. Let's keep it that way. Now some might say, but look at Ukraine. If they had nukes, if they were stronger, they wouldn't have been attacked. It's a counter-argument. But let's look at it flatly. Does more weapons really mean more safety? Or does it just invite a bigger fire? Once the first missile is launched, the economy stops. Your life as you know it, your job, your family outings, your favorite restaurants, everything is gone. The real lesson from today's world isn't that we need more guns. It's that we need leaders with the diplomatic skill to stay in the green zone of peace. True defense is making sure your country is so valuable to the global economy that nobody can afford to attack you. That is the 21st century armor that Japan perfected. We also need to talk about our own DNA. We Japanese are known for being polite and disciplined. But there is a flip side. Doyoatsu crushing peer pressure, and a tendency for shigoki or hazing. When we were a military nation, this DNA was used to silence anyone who said no. It was used to force soldiers into suicide missions. Today, we see traces of this in our corporate power harassment and rigid school systems. If we rearm without fixing this DNA, who is going to stop the next runaway train? Leaders who beautify our past are often the ones most likely to use this social pressure to control us again. They talk about national pride to distract us from the fact that they are taking away our freedom. We must remain flat and see these tactics for what they are. The strong Japan I want to see isn't one with a massive army and a starving population. It's a Japan where the economy is vibrant, where taxes are low because we aren't wasting them on weapons, and where every citizen can live with joy, gratitude, and laughter. Our ancestors were pioneers because they dared to believe that a nation could survive on intelligence and peace rather than brute force. Let's not throw away that pioneer spirit for a 19th century dream. Stay real, stay flat, and let's protect the peace that actually built this country. Thanks for sticking with me for these 7 minutes. See you in the next one. Thanks for watching. If you think history should be seen flatly, hit like and subscribe for more.